and I guess the NLV
August is going to talk about other business processes.
Their coach there, which was very popular. So it was a really good event.
That should be a good one.
Daniel Schultz.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mentioned that.
Good, how are you?
Yeah, sign me up for that meeting. I'll be there.
What is he doing now?
He is between gigs. Yeah, so he could use help.
Yeah, I think we've all reached that in between.
Yeah.
We're recording now, just to let you know.
Do you need to sign this?
Gail Edson also is looking. So anything for her. She's going to stay in town.
Left-handed as well.
She a regular in Boston.
She's also co-managing the noontime roundtable. She and Alan, anyway, she's got interesting credentials now because she has. There's Gail now.
Right.
We were just talking about you in the nicest possible way.
Thank you. I overslept. I was like, but I got to show up for Bob.
I need some moral support.
Yeah, I think it's.
Yeah. We're recording now. Right.
Okay. So welcome.
Good morning.
And let me try and remember what I'm doing here. I think the next slide is introductions. I'm learning my slide deck.
Oh, you got a nice little reminder in there, too. Like that.
So I'm Ari Davidow. I think I don't know if anyone knew this month, but in any event, I'm currently working at Commonwealth Financial as an information security project. And I co-chair this roundtable with John.
Currently in transition. Startup criteria index.
Good morning, Maureen White. I am returning to work after raising a family, and I've got the projects management certificate for the UMass Lowell and my CAPM, and looking to work in Massachusetts. So, sure.
Well, Wes Cathcart, I'm a senior project manager here at Leahy in the IS department. John Gagnon, co-chair of the Roundtable with Ari, radiology informatics manager here at Leahy, and an adjunct instructor at Granite State College.
Bob Louton, project manager at BAE Systems, currently co-manager of Boston Metro Roundtable. Used to be part of this roundtable, but everyone got tired of me, so I moved on.
And he accommodated me so I could do that down before.
We did a little swap there.
Gail Edson. I'm currently looking for a new position, either hybrid PM, BA kind of role. I'm also a co-chair of the Boston Noontime Roundtable. And some of us are trying to regroup up north and have like a coffee networking group. If anybody's interested in that, like mid-morning, I think Maureen might be joining us. Sheila.
I was going to mention Sheila.
Yeah. So if anybody's interested, let us know.
Thank you.
Judah Levine, Senior Project Manager at Nuance Communications.
We have anyone online who would like to introduce themselves?
Yeah, hi, good morning. I'm Sanjay Patel. I'm Senior Project Manager with Charter Communications.
Anyone else? No?
Okay. Next thing, there won't be a regular chapter meeting this month, but there is a summer networking special. That will be in Lexington on July 12th, and those are usually fun events and great places to meet people.
You guys all going?
I don't know.
I'm going.
Then I guess we'll have to go.
Right.
July 12th.
And coming up in September, the big event is Professional Development Day. That's a Friday, Saturday package with 15 and a half views. Should be a lot of fun. next month, July 27th, we'll have former chapter president Gina Booty talking about emotional intelligence for project managers. So I'm good. We're right smack in the middle of upcoming events. In about 3 minutes, we'll start the presentation, and at about 8:20, I'll do this, and you'll know that we're getting there. And hopefully we'll be done by 8:30, because we want people to get to work on time. You all know we have 9 roundtables.
Actually, there's 10.
Down to
I was
10.
gonna say, is there 10 now?
New one.
What's the 10th? Oh, right, yeah.
Have to start making them ovals. I'll have to come up with a new graphic. That'll be, who's starting in John Todd's place?
Kim.
Kim, yeah, she'll
Olive.
be one of her first
Olive.
jobs is,
Well, she can get it.
Have to redo the slide. Yeah,
We're trying to picture her face. I don't
she has a protractor.
She has
so we may want to, at this point, grouping them in a circle is not user-friendly. And
silos.
if you've,
Right.
actually, this is an older slide. If you visit the PMI Mass-based site now, you'll see that Roundtables is at the top of the pull-down, and things have otherwise been juggled. But, yeah, you go to the Roundtable, you go to PMI Mass Bay, you log in, then you'll be able to see Roundtables and events. And what I haven't added here is that to register for most events, which will start serving as the registration of record rather than the sign-in sheet, you go to My Event Guru.
We've had registration for this roundtable previously, and I didn't find it when I was looking yesterday. Am I, okay, it's not me, as long as.
Somebody, I won't mention who.
Fine-tuning.
Okay.
Got the
Well, I know Sheila had difficulty with it,
registration was
yeah.
turned on, but there wasn't a link there. If you got my message on Monday and clicked the link, you would have found it, but otherwise you have no.
filter off our emails.
No, I couldn't click, that's the other thing, you can't, it's not a link, so I have to cut and paste, and when I cut and paste and went to Event Guru, there was no button to register. Yes.
I had that problem. We forgot to turn on the registration
Yeah.
on the tickets.
All right. 2 down. No link, no registration. Bob's not really here.
Okay.
Physically or mentally.
But for those of you who remember him as Roundtable co-chair, you don't need the recap, but briefly, 30 years of project management experience in healthcare, insurance, defense, et cetera, firsthand knowledge of cradle-to-grave, PM-hood, rescuing troubled projects, troubleshooting organizations and process improvement, BS in electrical engineering and computer science, and 20 years experience as a technical manager in both contract software development and product development. His contribution on professional blogs has helped other project managers wrestling with challenges. He's presented numerous times at chapter roundtables, including here, as often as we can get him over the last 8 years, served as mentor for 3 years in the chapter's mentoring program, and currently, as he mentioned earlier, co-manages the Boston Metro Roundtable and contributes to the chapter newsletter. And
That's my typo, not Ari's typo.
currently working as Senior Project Manager and Scrum Master at BAE Systems on 5 cloud-based security products. And with that, I will turn it over.
Okay. There we go. All right. So just by way of preview for this, there are lots of ways of keeping track of our project. I don't know about you folks, but I'm basically slammed all day long. It's hard to keep touch with all the myriad details that go with each project, let alone all together, keeping an eye on the people, on the teams, who's doing the job, who's not, who's good at follow through, who's not, who's good at communicating, who's not. So there's a lot written at sort of high level of abstraction about how you do all that. I have never found it very helpful. I've just kind of worked up things that seem to work for me, and I thought maybe at that level of detail, there might be something that resonates, or you see something that I do that's what you're doing, so it's not particularly informative, it's just that we both do it. Maybe you're doing something that I'm going to show you that's actually better than what I'm doing, and I would love to hear about that, because I never stop looking for a better way to do what I'm doing at this level and at the grand scale level as well. For the person on the dialed in, I just want to check. Can you hear me okay? And hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, very well.
Oh, very good then. So I'm just going to take you through basically a smorgasbord of things that I do that help me. What I would hope that this generates a conversation. At any point you think it'd be helpful to say, yeah, I agree, or that I tried that it doesn't work, and here's why. Here's what I did that's better for me, etc. That'd be a great conversation, I think, for all of us. So hopefully that's close enough to what you're expecting that it could be useful to you during the day. So there's some concepts, there's some specific skills that I found helpful to at least strive for, and then some down and dirty techniques. So lists are pretty basic to us. I don't know about you, but I can't do my job without lists. Sometimes I get too many lists. It's been around for a long time. I'm pretty sure there's a list chiseled into an obelisk somewhere in Egypt.
That's why some of them get so tall.
That's right. They had a lot to remember. Yeah. All right. They made lists for their distant descendants too. All right. We sort them in terms of priority, in terms of who needs to do them, due dates. I'm constantly looking through my lists for stuff. Sometimes, at least in my mind, I have to keep track of all the lists because it's an awful lot of work to consolidate everything into one gigantic list, and then gigantic lists are hard to use. So I tend to have many lists, certainly on a project basis, and sometimes on a meeting basis or an objective basis. Action items, meeting minutes. You get lists out of meeting minutes. Ticklers. Here's something else that I can't live without. Any comments on lists, by the way?
What are some examples?
Of a list?
Yeah.
Actually, I'll have some coming up here, but I'll have a list of, for example, if I have weekly or daily stand-up, list of things I want to make sure get covered in that stand-up.
Okay.
So that's a list of
like
myself.
Like an agenda, okay.
Yeah, they said 2 days ago they're going to have this done. Is it done? Not everything is in the tickets, so you just, there are 3 things happening that aren't decided yet, but that could affect how we prioritize the tickets. I want to either keep an eye on that or mention it to the team, or if someone on the team is monitoring 1 or 2 of those, check in so everyone hears the current status. Let's just take all kinds of forms, right? 3 things I have to get done today. Probably the most important list on any project for me is my top 3 issues for the project. And I don't write those down because they better be memorized. Right? And you better have them at the tip of your tongue at any point in time.
I was just going to ask you, one of the conversations we keep having is writing versus typing in list or using your smartphone and recording them there. A lot of my friends find, even with their calendars, yep, it's great, I put it in my smartphone, but I find that if I write it or I have it visually, easier for me to remember. The act of writing it down is different than typing it in.
Yeah.
And there's that sort of, I write it down, it stays.
Like longhand or printed or something.
Exactly, or just, jotting things down on a note. I know my husband has a notebook, sits there and he writes things down, and he never seems to forget anything, and it seems to help him. And then some of us are like, was it a generational issue where we're older, we didn't have all of this technology growing up when we were young, so we just remember things better if we write them down, where younger folks might remember things better by typing them in. I don't know if you found any sort of correlation.
For me, I'm not sure I could generalize for myself, but I know there's a variety in how people think. There are different cognitive styles, which is a technical term. There's an old study technique called copying over your class notes, right?
Yeah.
So that's a redundant recording of the same information. There's a processing that happens in the brain.
Yep.
That's powerful. So for the people for whom that works, it's a good use of time. I think there's, to commit things to long-term memory, the brain absolutely must rehearse the information. And more than once, depending on the person and the information. If it's of vital interest or importance, it gets memorized more quickly because you just rehearse it automatically out of interest. But if it's something you abhor, then you got to force yourself through it. But that's part of memorizing, is rehearsing the information. It gets re-recorded through the hypothalamus.
It's also what tools do you use that facilitate having the information you want, where you'll find it, where you'll notice it. I'm an inveterate. It's got to be, even sitting here, I'll type into Evernote, because whatever machine I'm on, I've got my Evernote notes, and I can find them quickly. There are tools we use specifically at work for whatever works for you. It's not a did I teach myself to use this tool better or write better in my notebook? It's how do I get my job done?
There have been times when I'll be out somewhere, I don't have anything to write down on, but I have my iPhone.
Yeah.
So I will dictate a brief, almost cryptic email to myself. Then when I'm in front of my laptop, I'll take that and move it into the list where it really needs to be. So it's just an intermediate, but at least I capture it when I'm thinking about it.
Yep.
And then I can relax. It's captured. I'll come back to it.
That's the other thing. You don't have to use just words anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
written words, you can talk and...
Of course, depending on the company and industry you're in, some of us need to be mindful about what we might be overheard saying in a public place. So there are some constraints on that.
Good advice.
The other thing about your list is how often you want it accessible, right? I write lists down on the sticky papers, and I put them next to my keyboard on my computer because they're always there. If I've got it on my iPhone, in order to access that list, I've got to call it up. If I have it on my computer, if I don't have it in the bottom screen or whatever, you have to call it up. So if you want it front and center all the time, you're going to have to either write it down, type it, and print it, and have it in front of you. If it's something where you're always on the go, that's not going to work, and you have to have it on a mobile device so that you can access it whenever you need it.
Yeah, that's my situation. Sometimes I'm working at home, sometimes the office, often in the conference room. So it has to be with me somehow. Actually, John Morrison did a really great presentation this month at Boston Metro of various tools that we can use as project managers. He has a list of note-taking tools that are useful. I use Evernote on a Mac, and I have to keep a lot of stuff organized there in that way, but then it's with me.
Yeah.
It's with me. There is an iPhone app for it. I've never used it.
I have the... Oh, this is the Apple iPhone. It's on an iPad version that I'm typing in right now, Evernote. But I've got it on my Android device. I've got it on all of my computers. And that's what I like. I've increasingly found that for me, making sure it's in the cloud is critical, because if I'm in a conference room, I may discover that it doesn't hook up to my computer and I have to log in using the keyboard that's there. It has to be accessible that way and so on.
Yeah.
Can you still access it if it's a cloudless day?
Well, I didn't hear the question.
Can you still access it if it's a cloudless day?
Sunny day?
It depends.
It's a little early for this group for humor, John.
You raise a question. What if you don't have internet access? For some reason, the hosted version of Evernote isn't working, which is why I'm on my iPad. But all of the devices will maintain a cache of what you're doing and then update as soon as they're in wireless range. Part of the security policy at my company is that tools like Evernote, which I use for my stuff, can't be on the computer, so I can only log in through a browser. But we internally use something called OneNote, and that's their equivalent. So it actually helps me keep work separate from general stuff I need to know.
I don't think I can live with a thin client app. I need to be able to work standalone, at least temporarily. So for Outlook, I don't use OVA. I have a local client. For OneNote, I need a local copy of everything.
Yeah.
So or maybe on the bright side is if you can't work, you can enjoy the day, right?
Well, or for me, wherever I am, I have Evernote on something.
Yeah.
And if this was a work meeting, I would have OneNote and that cache on the computer. So just a different application to do the same thing.
So no, he's not enjoying the day. He's going to find a way to work.
Here,
He's a workaholic.
But I like what I do.
We're just teasing you.
Well, the trickiest thing, keep getting about this. All right, so the trickiest thing about lists is remembering them all, right? Making sure that where you wrote something down, it's going to come up when you need it. If you don't remember the 10 million things that you wrote down, they have to remember at some point. And when. So part of it is organizing your list so the stuff is there for the time that you look at that list. I have a little bit more about that, but one thing that I use is ticklers. Probably everyone understands that concept. It's an old word, but basically it's using your tools to remind you, so you don't have to remember to remind yourself. So to set the tickler, how long do I need to wait before I'm relying on something to remind me about it? And sometimes we need the help. So part of it is prioritization, understanding how urgent things really are. So what are the top three? I mentioned that earlier. What are the top risks? What are the top stakeholders I need to worry about communicating with that I haven't heard from? That maybe they've deprioritized this their participation, and I need to go fix that. We need to keep track of what the real objective is. Sometimes we get all wrapped around a date, or around a requirement, or around keeping two whiny people happy, whatever it is, and the real objective is a business objective, which means where are we really adding value? We can get hung up on a particular aspect of a project and suck time away from where the project really adds value to the company. These are all things to keep track of. Neil Whitten once said in a seminar that I attended that one of our jobs is to be the carrier of the vision for the project. What is this project really all about? And, reminding people, regrounding people to why we're actually doing this. We're not doing it because we want to practice a really cool process. We're not doing it because we're working with cool technology. We're not doing it because someone said so. It's because, come what may, it's going to increase reliability, increase margin, reduce load on the support staff, etc. So I went through ticklers and prioritization. Any discussion on that before I move on? It's all kind of straightforward stuff. A lot of it has to do with what you need to do for yourself to remember all that, to keep, you are the safety net for the project, so you need to make sure you are your own safety net. Keep yourself aligned on all these things. Use the ticklers as much as you need to. Use those techniques. Keep prioritization straight. You get foggy in prioritization, that should be a red flag to yourself. And not to rely on some external force to set you right, but you need to keep yourself convinced that you are aligned with the right priorities for the project, for the business, for the sponsor. So there are people, it's an old sales technique. There are people who will write the main goal on a whiteboard that they see every day, on the back door of their bathroom door, or someplace that they see it constantly to remind them, today's the day to make a difference. So wherever it's going to be for yourself, if that technique works for you, then that's great. I have done that from time to time where I was just very confused, Those things help. It's kind of silly, but it really does help to reinforce, why am I doing this? It's really helpful if you're working with people on the team who are really irksome or abrasive or tend to subvert the progress of the team, to have some kind of reminder to yourself what the bigger vision is, so you yourself don't get all wrapped around this dynamic. Okay. Follow-up. Occasionally a project manager has heard of this concept, so I don't need to do a lot of definition here. A lot of the follow-up is actually subtle. It doesn't have to do with what is said or what was done. It's what nobody brought up, what you're not hearing, right? The unknown that you don't know. And that's just tough. That's time-consuming. That's knowing people. It's developing a radar. There aren't any hard and fast techniques that I have other than to make sure I free myself up enough from the minutia to be able to stand a little higher and keep track of these things. Key part is to blame the process and not the people for what goes on. I can't stress that kind of perspective enough. And there are times when you know an individual is absolutely to blame, right? Absolutely, there's no question about it. But you can't wear that attitude inside you because it'll get telegraphed, and it won't do you any good, right? You will get derailed. You will add a dynamic to the team that might be there, and you'll be fueling it. So it's the process, it's not the people. What could I have done to help you stay out of your own way, basically? So the burden is on you to help the team be successful. Part of it is also developing communication with people. I mean, everyone already knows this. It's spending time with people, not talking about status, right? How was your girls' softball game last night? Did you close on the house? Did that big worry about your car, was it the axle or was it something simple? All that stuff. It's just connecting with people so that they see you as someone other than, did it get it done? Did you get it done, you lazy bum? You know? So that's time. I find there have been times when I actually have to make lists of people to connect with on a non-status seeking basis, non-problem solving status basis, because there's a part of me that just doesn't want to interact with them for whatever reason. Right? I need to organize myself in a disciplined way to make sure. I mean, it feels artificial to do this, right? But at least I have the reminder to myself, a checklist, 5 people I need to contact daily somehow. These 2 people I have to contact weekly somehow. Then I have the reminder, then I go through the process of getting my attitude set right, frame my thinking, and then approach them. Looking for process, not for problems that person is causing. You know, what problems do you know about you're not telling me, and you're just waiting to see if I can figure it out for myself? Do you ever get that from a software person? Mm-hmm. They love to play that game. Let's just see how long it takes them to figure this out. I'm not saying anything. We'll see how good he is. All right, so all that stuff, you just stow all the attitude and solve the business problem. Any questions on follow-up? It felt kind of preachy. I want to make sure that people have thoughts or ideas about how to tackle some of these things we share.
Well, I can say if you don't take a personal interest in people, they will hold that against you. In my experience, sometimes they just won't go the extra mile to help you out. But if you do take a personal interest, if you swing by, you say hi when you see them, even if you don't need anything, when you do need something, they're a lot more apt to help you out.
Yeah.
And,
I think perceived as a friend versus just like you're talking like a nag, you know.
Right. You know, I used to have to remind people that I worked with, I'm like, you know, that could be your mother out there. Would you be happy if people treated your mother the way you're treating her? You know, think about things that everybody has a life outside here, and you want to be respectful to each other, and there might be something else that's going on, and that's why they're perceived not to be giving it their all. But it makes a big difference. It can make your job a lot easier when you have people who want to work with you, just because you've taken an interest. So That's been my experience.
In therapeutic circles, there are some places will take the attitude that no matter how someone is behaving, that's the best they can do today. Because you don't know. I mean, they might actually be coping extremely well if you only knew the whole story.
Right.
You don't know.
Getting back to, putting on lists and reminders and stuff like that, in terms of your team, how do you handle that? In my own experience, I like to try to keep people informed as to what's going on, the progress of the project and everything else. But I noticed that there's a kind of a fine line to be balanced it, because sometimes it's like, yes, John, I know, okay, fine. I'm concerned, perhaps overly concerned, that they don't know everything that I know, and I want them to know that, where sometimes it's appreciated and other times it's like, just let us do our work. We'll get back to it. And if we have a problem, we'll let you know. But again, the particular thing, I'm thinking in my mind, all right, are they aware of this, that, and everything else? So have you encountered that at all, or an experience?
I've encountered all of that. There are people who will buy into the corporate goal, right? And they'll align their goals with that. There are people that don't care at all about what the goals of the company are, what the goals of the project or the team. They have their personal goals, and that's all they need in their world. They just, look, I write code, let QA test it. But if there's a bug, they'll find it. I'm not going to find my own bugs. I've run into the gamut. So in terms of what people are interested in knowing about the bigger picture, about the goals, or how apt they are to align their goals to the team goals, people are the way they are. And I don't think you can convince them to be other than what they are. There are people who want to have the bigger picture. There are people that just don't care. Just tell me what it is you want me to do and when you need it. I'll just do that. Because I have other interests, So you run into that. I think there are people who are comfortable spending the time talking. They'll listen when you're talking. They want to hear more. They want to ask questions. What about this? Has the company thought about this? I've heard this before. Have you guys thought this through? Or how are we going to handle that? They love that interaction, spending some of their time doing that. And there are other people that don't have any interest in that at all. They don't want to talk to you. They just don't want to. They'll talk to you for the length of time that they have to get done that transaction, and then get out of my office because I want to go back to what I was doing. That's part of stakeholder management, right, is calibrating to all these people. Yeah. It's hard.
But I think that's also part of the follow-up you were talking about a few minutes ago, which is if you have a relationship with the person other than I need you to give me the status, there's a little ground to get some sense of where they are from body language and other conversation without having to do an explicit. Doesn't work with everybody. Some people just, you're in my space.
And sometimes what we love is overwhelming to other people. I'm still amazed at the concept someone looks in the sky and says, I'm going to fly to the moon, or, I want to land on the moon. And I'm like, it's just a pretty moon. So to me, that whole concept of thinking about going to the moon and planning for that is just overwhelming. So you might run into someone, this is all they can psychologically handle at this point in time, and that big picture plan might be just adding pressure to their world. So if you can give it to them in littler chunks and let them focus on what they can handle, that might be some resistance you're running into, is that it's just too much for them to comprehend where they fit into the overall plan.
Another thing that happens, each of these points, these are wonderful points everyone's making, and each one is suitable for a deep discussion, too, because there's just so much there. I sense we've all had some experience, so maybe we're comfortable kind of skipping through these points and just letting them register. What I want to add to that is when I continue to work on, if I'm thinking about what I have to do during the day, I'm trying to solve the problems associated with my job, right? Are we on track? Is this behind? Did this get solved? What new technical issue did we find? Someone just resigned. Seriously? All that stuff. So when I come to someone, if my frame of mind is, help me solve my problems, how am I doing them a favor, right? I have to assume that everyone on the team has no interest in helping me solve my problems. They've already got assigned some, and they're happy with that list. My list of problems is on my list, not their list. So one of the things that happens if you have a little bit of connection with people is that it breaks that down a little bit. Most people have enough of a sympathetic appreciation of other people's lives that they can step in your shoes a little bit and say, oh, you need to know if this is going to be on time. Okay, I get that. All right, well, I don't have the big picture. I'm not interested in getting to the moon, but I know that the booster rocket, which is the part I'm on, is one of the 5 problems. You might want to know about those. If they start to appreciate you, if they see you as a human being, they relate to you as a human being, not as a guy with a checkbook.
Right.
Checklist.
Yeah.
So I think that's the dynamic. And so when you approach someone, if I can set aside this powerful imperative that I feel to get through 10 questions with this person, because I only have 5 minutes to do it. I got to get through all 10 because I need to know. Or if I can set that aside, say I'm taking a person who's also got questions, right? They have things they have to get done. We're both kind of in the same lot. So then it becomes an exchange. There's time to breathe in there. There's breathing room in the exchange, in the way we relate to each other, human to human. It has a whole different feel. I'm amazed sometimes how I don't get to all 10 questions, but the 2 that are really important, we get covered. Plus 3 I didn't know I had to have on my list, but the other person volunteered. Because it was human being to human being, kind of contending with the same general kind of thing as a part of the job. It just amazes me. It's magic to me how that works. And I got to remind myself to set aside the sense of urgency I have and just relate to the person. All right, that's not a skill. I think I don't know if you have to be born with that, but it's something to be developed. Other skills, time management. I don't need to do a class here on time management. Everyone's pretty familiar with it. The style that I grew up on, my first co-op job, goes like this. It's all about how you allocate time. It's according to priority, not according to preference. What really needs to have my time? Back when everything was on paper, you had labeled 3 drawers in your desk, A, B, and C. A are the things that you absolutely had to get done, or the world will come to an end. B, it better get done, but we'll pull through. And C is, if I never get to it, basically almost no one will care, right? So 3 big chunks, and every time something new came in, you didn't look at it and set aside for later. You look at it and you make a decision right then and there, which drawer does it go in? You don't set it, the piece of paper doesn't leave your hand until you've decided what the priority is and where do I put it to come back to later. So that's key to time management right there. And part of that decision doesn't have to do with what turns you on. Right? If I like drawing Gantt charts, then I'm liable, if I'm undisciplined, I'm liable to spend more of my time drawing Gantt charts than as opposed to talking to that stakeholder who works everybody. Another part of time management, the whole team has to be on this, but where I learned time management, it's acceptable to interrupt someone at any time to find out if they have time for the interruption. Here's the priority. When can we get together on this? Now, later, next week, never. So the whole team has to be part of that or it doesn't work. And the whole idea is being efficient and handling something. You don't keep coming back to it over and over again. All right, so time management is important. I find that with reading email. I don't know how many emails I delete not having gone past the subject line. That's all I need to know about that email. One guy who worked for me would always set his emails to me. It was a feature, I haven't used Outlook on Windows in a long time, but you could tell Outlook to alert you if someone deleted your email without reading it.
Oh.
So I'd get behind in my email and I'd flush it out in one press of a button. Within 2 minutes, he was at my office door. You didn't read my email. I'll talk about email in a minute. I have to write things down. There's very little I can rely on my memory for because there's just too much. There's just too much. There are a few exceptions. The things that I can memorize easily, we were talking about that earlier, and the top things. The top things that really need to be uppermost in my mind at any given time. Otherwise, I write it down. There's just too much to keep track of. Not everyone has the same discipline, so you are the safety net. You're the supervisor. Even if they have supervisors, you're still the supervisor. And you have to know how much to watch everyone. Who's good at following through, who never quite gets around to the stuff they don't want to do. I find that sometimes I'm basically doing their job in my mind in order to anticipate what they have to do, how long it's going to take them, the three things that hopefully occurs to them in the process of doing their job, so I can make sure that part was covered. It's a big brain drain if I don't corral it somewhat, but I still find I have to do it. I have to do it with every individual until I know the team, then I know who I need to do it with.
Well, there's an interesting incident of that. You know the actor Will Smith? I think he's on a TV series. But he not only memorized his own lines.
Fresh Prince or something.
Prince of Bel-Air
or something like that.
He also memorized the lines of all the other actors.
Show business before.
And the thing was, he'd be mouthing their which got, them aggravated,
Yeah.
So, but, he was being interviewed about, his success in Hollywood and everything else, and how, his work ethic. And he said, yes, because I wanted to be able to get everything down, so I knew absolutely everything that was happening. I even memorized the lines of the actors as well as my own. You said that just reminded me.
Yeah, what's the most important thing in the actor's life? Learn your lines, right? So he did that. If you can't learn your lines, you can't be an actor at all. And on live stage, you need to know everyone else's lines so that they screw it up, you understand everything, and you can ad-lib the scene back on track. So that makes perfect sense. Egos and hubris, I don't know how far I want to dive in that. We don't understand that. This is just part of dealing with human beings. It does give us a way to manipulate things from time to time. If we can appeal to someone's ego or their self-interest, especially with those recalcitrant stakeholders, like the sponsors.
That would fall into project politics, right?
Yeah, that's a very nice way to put it. Competing priorities, more to do, not enough people to do it, not enough time. In terms of, it's a skill. I think it's mostly a mental skill. You can write things down. There are ways of writing things down to kind of work it out. Benjamin Franklin gets credit for one, writing down, pros and cons and stuff. Making a weighted decision, looking at all the options and all the back too. All right. So anyway, you have to keep at all this stuff. I think you have to keep at. I really feel you have to keep at developing these skills, monitoring yourself for these skills. Checking people's nonverbal feedback on how you're doing. Any thoughts about all this?
That can be a little tough when you're in the heat of a project and your work. You can lose track of getting back to monitoring this stuff because you're working and you're focused on working, and you kind of have to stop and take a breather. Maybe have a friend, if you work at home, maybe go into the office that day and have someone kind of balance you out a little bit. I know my husband works out of the house, and every now and then he's just tunnel vision focused, and I'll turn to him and say, well, you're kind of not doing this. You're assuming all of these roles because you don't feel as though other people can do their job, and you need to step back and make them do their job. You can't do everything and whatnot, but he'll work day and night because he's out of the house, and he'll get very involved in it, and he won't stop and look, and I'll say, well, you need to talk to people, because he also, very introverted, will avoid talking to people and just assume things rather than taking time if someone has a question and explaining something with them so that that piece of it can come off his plate. You know, sometimes you can get into it and forget to do those things, and if you don't have a colleague or someone that you can bounce ideas off of that might help give you direction and focus and say, oh, Bob, you've been doing this and you've been not doing that you used to do before that was really good, you just get out of your habits. And so it's always good to have a colleague or somebody to help you refocus sometimes.
I heard you make 4 really good points. One is that I'm putting words in your mouth, so.
That's okay.
Totally missed your point. One is that we don't actually multitask, right? We switch context. So if you are problem solving, you're not monitoring. And if you're monitoring, you're not problem solving. So you need to watch that balance and make sure you don't get stuck too long, so that you can make sure you get back to the monitoring. And there are many reasons you can find yourself problem solving a lot, which you also listed, but that's one thing. Another thing is that I said before, that's a long list. I should have written this down.
Where's your iPad when you need it?
Yeah, I can use my iPhone while you're talking, texting. You could be doing other people's job, right? And as project managers, this happens all the time. You are supplementing someone who doesn't have the chops you need them to have, so you make up the difference. That takes you away from monitoring, right? It takes up time you could be chumming up with people who are hard to get along with, all that stuff we've already talked about. And so how do you transition out of that? Especially if the person either can't do it or won't do it, or you can't get help from their supervisor to coach them to do it. Sometimes you're just stuck for the duration of the project to get rid of it. But I think a key point you were saying is you need to be self-aware, right? All right.
Oh, no, that's 5.
I forgot the other 2. Oh, one is somebody who can hold up a mirror, to help, because sometimes it's hard to monitor yourself. We get lost in this stuff, and I forget the 4th one. It was a really good one.
Thank you.
All right.
Post it to LinkedIn after.
Yeah. I think we can sort of supercharge through this. Where do you put this stuff so you can find it? Having a team calendar is helpful. And that can take any form. It can be a high-level schedule. It can be an online calendar. Most of us are a virtual team, so it usually has to be online. I think it's very helpful. In terms of helping the team, there's some noise here. Hopefully it doesn't pick up on the phone or interfere with hearing me. In terms of reminding the team about the big picture, calling their attention on a routine basis to the overall schedule, we all know all that. Physical or online, reminding people of the deadlines. And I don't have to talk about how you do that, not in a stern or threatening way, but just, you can make it as a question instead of a reminder. You can say, okay, well, if you do this, how does that affect the date? How does that affect the 3 things we can only do in sequence leading up to the deadline, etc. There's a whole lot of stuff to keep track of. I've never had a consolidated action item log for a team. I find it unwieldy, and no one ever looks at it. So you break it down into pieces, which I might have time to talk about. They tend to be more informal. There have been projects where I have an action item list per meeting, and I save the meeting minutes with the action items on the bottom of the meeting minutes, and I resend the meeting minutes showing progress on those action items. A lot of work for me, but it worked for that team. There wasn't a lot of it. The team had the context of the action items because it was there with the meeting minutes. It's very helpful.
When you do your meeting minutes, I'm just curious at how much detail would you do? Would you just do decisions, action items? I mean, some people go into great detail in minutes,
Yeah.
some it's over.
So, there's a lot of noise here. The question was, how much detail in the meeting minutes? It really varies. Sometimes I don't have time to do it, so I write down what I have time for. Often the team doesn't need that because everyone is already fully up to speed. It's just almost the formalities are recorded. I might make sure I capture the key points that are driving a decision or defining an issue. Definitely get actions. I almost always write down the list of people who were there, who were in attendance. That's like mandatory for me. Most teams it doesn't matter, but there are times when that's an important FYI for the team.
Yeah, one thing I do with action items, I keep, from meeting to meeting, I keep a running list of action items, but I have two separate tables. I'll have the open action items, and then when I close them, I take them out of that table and put them down below. So in every meeting minute, I'll have all the prior closed action items at the bottom. Yeah. So we know that we've addressed that, they've been closed, and then you just have your open ones
You
separate.
document what the closure was? Because I know sometimes I've found that I've closed items, I'm like, oh, what the heck, why did we do this,
Yeah.
What's the history here? And unless you...
I don't typically, I write my action items so you know that when you close it, we'll be done, I don't know, make supper, and then, okay, it was closed, well, I guess supper was made.
Doesn't matter whether it was steak or chicken?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. So,
We eat. No one gets sick.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't, it's too much detail to do that.
Sometimes I've found if you're making a decision, like, we're gonna implement it should we implement it this way or this way? This is our issue, how to implement it.
Yeah.
You might want to list why you made that decision, because I've had it happen, comes back around, like, well, why did we do this,
Yeah, sometimes I will.
But I guess it just depends.
Sometimes I will,
Yeah.
I'll have all my action items regular black ink, and, I'll put red in there what the decision was, just a one-liner or something underneath the action item, the closed action items, just so you can go back and look. So, yeah, every once in a while I do that, but it's not every action item.
Right, yeah.
I think it really depends. If it's a team of 5 people who've been working on this product for 3 years, it's often just superfluous to record that. If you have a lot of contract labor, or if you have actually some contract organization who's a part of the team, or it's a large team distributed across geographically, it's really helpful to have captured that somewhere.
Yeah, I find often if I'm working with a new group or a diverse group, that I'll take notes on the discussion, because part of that is how we got to whatever decision, but also part of that is who are these people, what are their concerns?
Yeah, good point. All right, daily tracking. I often make a punch list for myself. It's an old technique, but if you start the day by looking at your calendar, making sure you're organized about what you have to get to, what you should get to, what you need to follow up on, what didn't get finished yesterday, it's time well spent.
I find doing it the night before helps you get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
Because you're not thinking about,
Laid off. What's my bullet list for the day? Okay.
Excellent.
Do my email, send an email to my mom, then look at Indeed.
If you're in a job search, that's like
dinner.
table stakes to find another job. That's really important to do. I found that,
Otherwise, you could spend the whole day on
getting around
computer, doing nothing.
I know. Here's something. This is really silly, but it worked for me at a time. I sent myself an email every day from the previous day, organized by topic that would be useful for the day. I can look down here and find what I need. Here's follow-up stuff. It's stuff that happened. And this was helpful. I don't do this anymore because it's not useful where I am. It's just it would be cumbersome. I have other ways to get the same thing done. But this was useful for a while. Sometimes the format of status reports is helpful. We talked about meeting minutes. This is so powerful. I started doing this a long time ago. How long?
We're done.
We're done?
Wrap up done.
This is quick. An email comes around. I'll just go to the example. You save that email as your reminder, as your tickler, and as your reminder. Here's how it works. All right, Karen. Shouldn't there be an email saying what the deadline is? Karen answers, yeah, I'm gonna take care of it the next meeting. All right, notice, here's the action, here's the deadline. I forward this email to myself. In most email systems, you can put a timer on emails, either to send itself or to reminder. This is to myself. The whole thread is there, right? So then I can say, hey, Karen, on the 24th, did that ever get set? She has the whole context there. Everything is there, and it's only a few keystrokes for me to set a particular and have what I need to follow up. This has been really powerful. And block off time for myself and the calendar. Take time to organize myself, set aside temporary time to do stuff that I know I'm going to need time to do, etc. All right, I'll stop here, Ari. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, done with that. I can go into something else.
On your schedule.
Okay, block off time. Get to work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do now? What am I doing?
Check your.
That's your tickler list.
I don't know.
I realize it's
That's a
two.
Hey, that's like sense now.
Yeah, you're gonna,
Yes. Did everyone sign the
you
sign?
want to evaluate yourself, Bob?
Can you, hi, good morning. So I was not able to register, there was no link, but can you make sure I'm on that list?
Yes,
Beyond
do that. John, if you captured the...
Thank you.